Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Kay Lowry Moore Show. I'm so glad you guys are here with me this evening. I hope you got your beverage, whatever's comfortable for you. On this show we have conversations. Sometimes we have wild and crazy confessions, but not tonight. We'll just have a nice conversation with Reverend Allison Daniels. I want to give a special shout out to Renee Allen of the Renee Allen and Friends Show. So I hope you guys were watching. If not, make sure you start here next week at 7 p.m. Actually, you need to start a little earlier. Check out Listen Vision Live. Check out the Wednesday lineup. It is awesome. Trust me, you will be empowered. You'll be motivated, encouraged. We need a little bit of that in our lives today. So, with that said, I'm going to welcome Miss Reverend Allison Daniels to the Kay Lowry Moore Show.
Thank you for the welcome.
Oh, you are welcome. Thank you for coming in. I know that you had quite a commute, so
Yes.
I would like to thank you for coming in. So we're going to get into a little bit of Reverend Allison's background. She is an award-winning, two-time best-selling author, and of her book, the book with the Walk in Your Authority. We're going to show that book cover.
Okay.
So she is that book is a bestseller, and she also has another book where she was a co-author that made it to the bestsellers
Yes.
list, and that is the Sharing Our Prayers: 12 Testimonies of Spiritual Habits to Improve Your Life. So we're going to be talking a little bit about both of these books and some other work because you have 31 books out.
Yes.
So make sure during the break, you go to Amazon, check out Allison Daniels or Reverend Allison Daniels books. And
Yes.
she is the owner of Allison Daniel Ministries, which is a
Yes.
coaching and consulting business. She also has a program called Right to Finish Now to help you get your book started, get your book written and finished. That's why it's
Yes.
called Right to Finish Now. And she is a transformational speaker, a coach, minister, mother of two, and a wife of 17 years.
Yes.
So how do you manage to balance everything?
Oh gosh. Actually, just one day at a time, and just making sure that I have time for each person, because it's an individual thing, and then it becomes a family thing. But just making sure that I balance everything equally,
Okay.
and finding that time to also have some time for myself.
Absolutely. And you also have a day job, a 9 to 5.
Yes.
So,
9 to
sometimes
5,
we
yes.
got to put on so many different hats in a day. So,
Yes.
I salute you for that because I know
Thank
that
you.
that can be difficult. Of course I do it as well, but sometimes we
Yes.
just have to make sure that we do take out time for
Yes.
ourselves. So, we're going to find out more about what inspired you. Like what made you decide to become an author?
Oh gosh. Well, I've been writing for so many years, at least 20, maybe 25 years. And what inspired me the most is wanting to make a difference in our women and our youth. With me having two daughters, just trying to make sure that they know that they are accepted, make sure that they know who they are, and they know their identity. And so, me constantly writing and putting writing out there is giving them that part of them to go back and say, hey, this is who I am. This is what I want to be. So what inspired me was trying to make a difference in our youth of today
Absolutely.
and tomorrow.
Okay, that sounds great. So, with your book, what made you decide to just because we write our ideas down, but to actually pursue the journey of publishing, writing and publishing is two different
Yes.
animals. So, do you own your own publishing company, or did you go the traditional publishing route?
Actually, I just started my own publishing company.
Okay.
But before that, I did go the traditional route, and I did also do a lot of the self-publishing. And I don't really like to say self-publishing
Me
because
either. Me
actually
Me
I still
either.
did everything,
Yeah,
myself.
I always label that as
Yeah.
independent publisher.
Yes, I heard you say that
Yeah,
before.
independent
That was
publisher.
the word. Yes. So, and my mission is to help other authors get into print, and I also have 3 authors that already have their book out, because of what I have helped them do. So that is my mission, is to help other authors.
Okay.
To be able to tell their story and give their voice in their story.
Okay. So tonight's main focus, although we're going to be talking about several of your works, but
Yes.
tonight's main focus will be your book, Walk in Your Authority, Unleashing the Divine Power from
Yes.
Within. So tell us about this book and just what they expect from, from this journey.
Okay. Now, this book, Walk in Your Authority, which is the 30th book, and what I wanted to do with this book is to bring light to who we are as a person. And Walk in Your Authority, it's a beneficial book which will help you it will actually help you and challenge you to be able to take that next level, to stay focused. And each chapter has questions for you. And what will happen once you read the chapter, then read the questions, then it'll challenge you to want to go to that next level, to find out what it is that makes you who you are. And it also has powerful tips, tools, and Bible verses for you to be able to kind of reflect. And then also to reflecting lets you kind of go forward to reach into who you are, reach
Absolutely.
deep down within.
I don't think a lot of people do enough self-reflection. I always talk about people who keep it on the surface because sometimes people are afraid to go to look inside themselves. So a lot of times when I see people always criticizing others, they always say it's easier to point the finger at someone else instead of looking within. But you mentioned that you started writing because you wanted to make a difference.
Yes.
What are some of the main challenges that you see with our youth in today's society or just in the world today? What are some, there's so many challenges.
Yes,
But
yes.
what are some of the challenges, or like Renee and Alan Friend shows, they were talking about mental illness and things like
Yes.
that. So what do you think is something that we need to really tackle?
I think if once we can get our youth to know who they are, then some of the things that are happening, that are going on out there, they wouldn't, what I want to say, they wouldn't go back and forth with hurting each other and killing each other and not knowing who they are. I think is that foundation. And I believe that it starts at home.
starts at home.
It starts at home, because if they know who they are, when they go out in the world, they're not going to allow the things that are going on around them to stop them from reaching that goal or reaching that destiny or that purpose that they have been called to. But right now, I just think it's I don't know who I am, so let me connect to whoever
Right, let me fit in.
appreciates me, right? Whoever will take on whatever I'm going through.
Absolutely. So I think that will be easier from people who come from a stable household.
Yes.
So how would you address it or how should we address it from people? Because there's so many people from broken houses.
houses.
And I'm not even talking about single parent homes and things like that, because a single parent home doesn't automatically define a broken home. Because
Right.
there are some two parent households where a lot of abuse is
Yes.
taking place.
Yes.
So, one platform that I do have for the show is to try to, stop some of these stereotypes where people see a single parent and they automatically think, oh, this child is doomed, especially in the Black community.
Yes.
So how do we address those that are coming from abusive households where they're not getting that foundation?
To me, that's where the schools come in at, your counselors come in at, and then your mentoring programs. Maybe if one person reach another person and reach that next child, maybe a teacher take on being a mentor, maybe a coach take on being a mentor to help them, then all is not lost, because not everyone is going to get that foundation that one household may have that's different from another household. So it starts within the schools.
Absolutely. And also the thing when I talk about, life challenges reach, a lot of them do reach back to the childhood.
Yes.
And I always talk about, how I lost my mother when I was a little
Yes.
girl. and we don't talk about therapy in our community. We don't talk about healing our children because you're right. If we heal our children, we will have less broken adults.
Yes.
You know, they always say, you know, it's easy to raise someone up, but when you're trying to fix an adult, it's difficult because they're set in their ways, and you have to kind of reprogram everything that they've been thinking about themselves.
Everything that they've learned, you know, because it's like that's a learned behavior. So now it's like, well, how do I teach them or unlearn everything that
Absolutely.
you learned, you know, and then get them to believe that what you were believing is still not right.
And unfortunately, in my opinion,
Yes.
our media doesn't help.
No, it doesn't.
We're in a society, we're in a time now where these reality shows is taking over, and they're showing a lot of dysfunction in many of them.
Yes.
And a lot of our youth think that that's okay. So, you know, as a parent, you know, we're up against so many different factors to try to shield our children from the dysfunction in society that we can't control. Some of it we just can't control.
Right.
So what would be your message to the young folks when they, to kind of get them to separate reality from the reality shows?
Man, I would say they're young, but I would say find your purpose and find out what it is that you're passionate about. And then kind of focus in and key in on that. And then stay focused. Don't lose that direction that you have been called to do, because we all have a gift. And a lot of times our gifts are drowned by the people that we hang around.
Absolutely.
So if we can get our youth to key in on what it is that's their purpose, and some of us don't find out our purpose until we're 40 and 50 and 60 years old. But if we can kind of get them to just focus, it's almost like a foundation that now we kind of have to build, so that our youth can focus and get some form of direction. And then I believe once they find out what their passion is or what they're passionate about, I really believe that they'll start making decisions that will lead them in the right direction.
Absolutely. And one thing I always try to tell people, for those of us that do want to put out positive messages, it seems like our messages are sometimes, overcrowded by
Drowned out.
the other things that's going on, especially on
Yes.
social media. And it kind of makes you want to pull your messages back or, send them less frequently. Because I know for me, just to be around that social media noise can be a
Yes.
challenge. But I think that we still have to keep pushing.
Yes.
We have to keep pushing.
Don't give up.
And because you never know who you might save, or there might be just that one thing that you said
Yes.
that could turn someone, just turn them around. So, but I talk a lot about the social media because it's huge. I mean, it's everywhere. We have I'm talking about children, toddlers, doing things, and with the bullying. We have so many young folks committing suicide.
Yes.
They, at 9 and 10 years old, they feel like their life is over. So we have to come up with
Address
creative
it.
ways. So as a parent, how do we address that topic with our children or just in society to help kind of shield them from that?
I don't know if we can totally shield them from that because it's actually going on. But what I can say is having that communication and that dialogue is what really makes a difference. And it actually makes a difference in my household. Constantly talking to my younger daughter, letting her know that, this is your space, and if someone is saying something to you, children address children and parents address parents. So if there's something going on in school, you definitely need to say something to me. And a lot of times I do find that they are afraid to say it because they don't know what people are going to say or what their friends are going to say, or that peer pressure. But what I've found is a lot of communication, daily communication. Like one thing I do with my baby girl is immediately when she comes in and run up the steps, I'm like, hello, how was your
Exactly,
day?
exactly.
And I don't let her get past me. It's like she'll say, oh, it was okay. No, what happened in first period, what happened in second period, because we can go through and let them say, oh, my day was fine. And then we'll say, what happened in first period? And then she'll say, fine. What happened in second period? Fine. And then if I stop there, maybe something happened in fifth period.
Yeah.
So it's that communication and keeping that door open for them. And I think that's what will change this bullying, because I think they just don't feel that they have someone that they can talk to.
Yeah, and that, it's funny you bring up that. I remember growing up and doing the same thing, trying to go upstairs and close the door and just go in my room. And my father would say, open your door. And I'm like, why?
Right.
But it was to prevent me from shutting people out because,
Yes.
I did that after my mother died. I wanted to be to myself, but I think that is when other things start creeping into your mind. We didn't have the social media then, so I had a different outlet, and writing was my outlet. But you're right. I think it makes a difference when someone asks you those questions. How about your day? How was your day? How are things going? I'm raising 2 black male children, so
Yes.
that's a different challenge for me. And but like you said, I make sure I ask them questions as well.
Yes.
Especially with them trying to keep stable employment and just not being stereotyped.
Exactly.
And because it happens.
real.
It's real, and I've experienced it with my
Yes.
children, and it's difficult. But as a parent, you do have to keep instilling those positive things in them.
Yes.
And unfortunately, as we mentioned earlier, there are some people that they might not get it from home, but if we, keep it in our schools, and we used to
Yes.
have it in the community. What do you think happened to the community?
I almost think people became afraid. They don't want to speak up anymore. They don't know what should I say to this child without this child's parent getting on me. And I think we kind of backed up from, what's that saying? It takes a village to raise a child.
Absolutely.
I think that village is just kind of, taking their hands off for a minute.
But I've been trying to pinpoint when did that shift? Because there was a time where you were corrected.
No matter what.
You were corrected by your teachers. You were corrected
Yes.
by your neighbors. But it just seemed like all of a sudden, and it may not have been all of a sudden, but for me, it just seemed like it just started to take a turn.
Right.
But a lot of people, when we have these conversations, we just cannot pinpoint
When did that happen?
when did that shift. And a lot of our music and a lot of the things that's in the media, it's not giving them positive messages.
Right. It's not.
So there's so many different things that we will have to do to try to stabilize the community, because before we can address some of the larger issues,
Yes.
we have to start what's going on within our homes and within our community. So, but I want to get back more into your book, Walking Your Authority, because I love the title. I know what it means for me, and I always ask people, what does that mean? Because a lot of people are not being true to themselves. They're not, even comfortable with that. So what message would you give to someone who's struggling with how to even do that?
How to walk in your authority?
How to walk in your authority?
Say walk. I would say step out on faith. Walk it out and see what the end will be. There may just be, and I believe that there is, a light at the end of the tunnel, but you'll never know that if you don't step out. And when I wrote this book, Walk in Your Authority, I kept saying, what, God, people are going to question me. Like, what do you mean walk in your authority? Why would you write that book?
I like the
A
shoes.
lot of ladies love the shoes. And see, I'm a red rose person, so I love the red rose too.
Yeah, I see you have a bracelet.
But just walking it out. Walk out your purpose. Because if we can get into a place where we start learning how to believe in ourselves more, trust in the decisions that we make, and then walk it out, you will see a difference in your life. Because like I said, when I wrote this book, I would have never, I can't say I would have never thought it would have made the bestsellers list, but think about it. I've written 30 books before this one.
Okay.
So, but I never stopped writing because I knew one day one of the books would take off. I just didn't know which one, but
And
I
what if you
definitely
would have?
stayed
What if you would have
focused.
stopped at 29?
Exactly. I would never met you. There's so many people along the way.
And we did meet at a speaking event.
Yes.
The title of the event escapes me now, but we did an event together where we both the mastery sorry, Charles.
Sorry, Sir Charles.
I am just drawing a blank with that, but we met at an event, and you're right. There are times where you just have to have faith in yourself.
Yes.
And the one way to do that is you cannot be afraid to make mistakes.
Yes.
And you cannot be afraid to be talked about.
Exactly.
I think if people get past that acceptance factor,
Yes.
then they will take more chances in themselves. Because I remember when I wrote, most of you all know that I write romance. And
Yes.
when I wrote my first book, there were errors in the book. And it wasn't like I didn't hire someone. It's just that the editor didn't catch everything. And there was always people that's waiting for that mistake to be made.
Yes, they are.
But because I'm my own publisher, I said, you know what, okay. Well, I was able to pull it back.
Yes.
And clean it up and republish it. But what if I just decided to, you know what, I'm not good at this. I'm just going to stop here. Maybe this is not my calling. No, I like telling stories. I like telling stories about, Black love. So I kept doing it. But there are so many people that they are afraid to make those types of mistakes. So what keeps you going to book 30 and book 31, and what keeps you, because it's one thing to want to do it, but there are days when I know, if you've ever felt like I felt, where we get discouraged. And that's the side of the business, whether it's the music industry or publishing or just any type of entertainment, people don't like to talk about.
Right.
So what do you do when you get discouraged?
When I get discouraged, definitely I put my books to the side, put my writing to the side, but I put on my ministering music. I also, I just write my journal a lot. I do a lot of writing daily, and I really don't beat myself down as much. Now, I'm not saying that I don't get down, because I do, but because I know who I am and I know who I am and whose I am, if I kind of said that right, I don't allow myself to not say that I'm not approved,
Right.
or not say that I'm not accepted. And I don't have to fit into every circle, and I don't have to fit in with everybody, and I know everyone's not going to like me, and everyone's not going to receive me. So those things, they're like, right here to the side, because I'm still going to be Allison. At the end of the day, no one else can be me.
Absolutely.
So I still have to, sometimes I do have to put things to the side, so that way I'm not so frustrated, and I'm not, beating myself up with negative words, because I believe in speaking positive words over yourself. And I just believe that when I have those down days, then I just take off. I'm with my family a lot. I have my husband here with me today, which is a blessing.
Yeah, support is always great.
Yes. And I just go and retreat with my family, and stay focused. Because as long as I can stay focused, you can't take me off of what I've been called to do.
Absolutely.
So,
and I asked that question because there are so many people that are walking around like they're okay, and they're hurting inside. And there's a song, and I talk about it, and as much as I talk about it, I wish I had like $1 for every time I talk about this song or show. I believe she started off as an independent artist. Her name is Tamika Moore, and she has a song called "I'm Not Okay," and I love it though, because it's an upbeat song.
Okay.
But she's talking about how she's not doing it anymore. She's not putting on a face. She's not putting on the makeup to go out to pretend to be okay.
Right.
and that it's actually okay to say, you know what, I'm not okay. And it's not that you're falling to pieces or that you're suicidal.
right.
It's just that sometimes life can get overwhelming.
Yes.
And I always tell people, I think that if more people would just stop, like we talked about earlier, and reflect
Yes.
and just try to eliminate some of the noise, then they wouldn't be so frustrated, or they piling the frustration on top of what's already
Yes.
going on.
And that's what's going on. And even if they just take some time out, step back, and maybe write some things down. You know, because if you write things down and kind of do a check off, you'll be surprised of the things that you have released from you. And I try to make sure that, you know, I don't put more on my plate than what I can handle. And sometimes I have people that'll come to me and they're like, well, I have 20 things that I have to do today. Well, pick 5 that's a priority to you and stop letting life stress you out. Because if I want to make it to the next day, or if I want to see, you know, my daughter's, oldest one has graduated from college and the next one to graduate from college, I have to take care of self.
Absolutely.
So that means I have to start eliminating some things in my life and stop trying to think that I can carry it all, because I can't.
Absolutely.
It's bigger than me.
Absolutely.
It's bigger.
But with that, we're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And then we're going to come back and we're going to get more into your ministry and your coaching business and some of your upcoming events. So
Yes.
We'll be right back.
This is the last take for the night. Understand that's kinda late, and I gotta get home to my son, cause he's so special to me. I mean, I gotta see him, I need to breathe him. That's my baby, don't call me crazy. I love the studio, but I love him more. Let me give you what I got, so I woke up in the morning feeling fresh to death. I'm so blessed, yes, yes. I went to sleep stressed, woke up refreshed. I'm so blessed, yeah, yes. Water in my face and everything is in its place. Peace of mind, even my grace. I'm so blessed, yes, yes, yes. My grandma almost lived to see 92. I'm so blessed, yes, 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 yes. My son was born healthy and beautiful. I'm so blessed, yeah, yes. My mama's on my right side, daddy on my left. My son, father doing is absolute. I'm so blessed, 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 blessed. Yeah, yeah, yes. And I know what I know. And I know what I know. Trouble gon' happen, it's just the way it be. Ain't nothing coming easily in this life. Sometimes you gotta work and you gotta grow and it gotta hurt. I'm sure you know, take a look around. Woke up this morning listening to this song, you're so blessed. Yes, yes, gonna rock this joint all night long, you're so blessed. Yes, to be up in here with our hands up in the air, waving like we just don't care. We're so blessed, yes, yeah, yeah, in the morning feeling fresh to death. Went to sleep stressed, woke up refreshed. Mama's on my right side, daddy on my left. I'm so blessed, yes, yes, yes.
Okay, so we are back on the Kay Lowry Moore Show with Reverend Allison Daniels. We are here at Listen Vision Live, which is right across from Georgia Avenue. And I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. You know, this is one of those shows that I like to consider, it's so powerful. And these are, because sometimes I need to be reminded as well, because, a lot of times we will put a lot on our plate. So you just reminded me to stop, until I'm finished what's already on my plate. Not to add anything else to my plate. So that's what we were talking about before the break, about what are some ways to try to minimize the stress and the feelings of being overwhelmed.
Yes.
Just because life is a lot on its own. So so how did you get into the ministry? You have a company called Allison Daniel Ministries.
Yes.
So we talked about what inspired you to become an author. Well, what inspired you to get into the ministry?
Gosh, I've been around ministers and pastors all my life, and I come from a praying family. But one thing that I know is something that I'm passionate about, and that is seeing people healed, delivered, and set free. So I believe that my writing actually does that. There's something in every book that I've written that has changed someone's life. So, and that's another thing that keeps me constantly going, because there may just be one story in this book or one story in that book that has touched someone. And so I definitely believe that writing and speaking is my passion. And so I've brought that over into the ministry, to make a difference.
Okay. And like you said, there's a story in your book, Walking in Your Authority. Was it Unleashing the divine power from within, where you talk about what you went through with your mother.
Yes.
I can't remember all of the details, but did she have dementia or early stages or?
No, believe it or not, my mom had told me early 2004, she kept saying, baby, I'm going to go through something that's going to shake the very foundation, but don't worry about me because God is going to be with me. So she had a surgery. I forgot what it's called. And evidently, the medicine that they had given her triggered something that changed her whole life, and actually changed our whole lives.
Oh, my goodness.
So it was really devastating for me because I'm the oldest child, so a lot of things fell on me. And eventually, until... I don't want to name the company or what have you, but until they could get that right, one thing I had to do was release my mom to a nursing home.
Okay.
And that was the hardest thing that I had to do as the oldest child, to do that because, no one can take care of my mom like I can.
Right.
And no one can say to her what I can say to her. But I had to trust that God had her while I was trying to work behind the scenes to actually see what happened. And with me and my family all staying together, they were able to find out what happened because I wasn't going to let them rest.
And so it was the medicine that triggered, because I remember reading a part where she was trying to leave the house.
Yes, many times, because they couldn't get the medicine right. And so at that point, my mom, from a person that's well, so you're talking about from 62 down to the age of 2 is what we had to deal with. And I had to make sure that I let the doctors know this is what you gave her.
Oh,
and between one of the 3 or 5 of these, something counteracted. And we need to find out what happened. And I had a lot of extended family that were helping and looking things up and, calling me with information. But again, it was really hard because the doctors didn't know what it was. I mean, to them, they kept saying, well, she's okay. She's fine. I said, listen to her talk. If you listen to her talk, you'll understand that she's not herself. Because she wasn't even, and she doesn't mind me talking about it because I am getting ready to do another book on that. I know people are like, you're going to write again? I'm going to write and write and write.
Writers write.
Right. But she doesn't mind me talking about it. But one thing I noticed that if families stick together and stay on the doctors, you can find answers as to what happened to your family member. But so many times I've entered into the hospitals and noticed that there was no one for the person that was in the next bed
I was just thinking that.
that could help them.
I was
you know?
just thinking that
Yeah.
that it was a blessing that
Yes.
your mom had you all, had
Yes.
you and your siblings, because oftentimes people will just write them off.
Yes.
And not look into what happened.
And that's what they wanted to do. I mean, they kept trying to tell us, well, just leave her here and don't worry about it. She'll never come back as her, herself. And I said, I don't believe that. I don't receive that. And my mom is perfectly well.
Oh, that's a blessing.
Perfectly well.
And so she just had to just come out of that, from whatever medicine she was on, that had to just get out of her system.
Well, what they had to wind up doing was giving her another medicine that flipped her back to the age that she should have been.
Oh, wow.
But before all of that, you had these different medicines that my mom was taking that they couldn't figure out what did what. So I said, this is what you could do. Take her off of everything.
Exactly.
Stop everything and let's start back over. So a lot of the medicines that my mom was taking, she's not even taking those anymore.
Okay, that's
So
definitely a
blessing.
blessing. Woo! So that's a
Yes.
testimony. They always
Yes.
say, these tests become testimonies if we
Yes.
can just push on through. So is that what are some of the topics that you speak on? I know we covered a lot of things. Is that pretty much what you speak on in cause it says that you're a transformational speaker.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So is that some of the same things that you do speak on as far as just overcoming tragedies, trauma?
Well, overcoming tragedy and trauma, definitely building up your self-esteem, giving your book a voice, because that's one of the things that I want to make sure that people know, or everyone know, that you do have a book inside of you. And self-esteem for young girls, building up your self-esteem for young girls.
And
Yes.
I feel that that's why we connected, because our people, they know my story about whenever I'm on a platform with ministers and people know my
Yes.
book is a little steamy, I'm always like, oh man. But sometimes you just have to continue to be yourself and just
Yes.
accept people and not feel shame, for anything that you do or anything that you write. Because love definitely has its place. We
Yes.
all, married, would love to be married and have a hot and steamy romance. So it has its place. So, but it is a challenge for me, which I accept the challenge when I do speak on the same platforms. But I think that's why we connected, because although we tell our stories differently,
Yes.
we still have the same underlying message, which is overcoming tragedy and trauma and building up your self-esteem. And it is difficult when you are a person who, especially when you suffer childhood trauma, just trying to reprogram your thoughts. Because for me, like I said, losing my mother when I was only 10 years old, I don't even know what self-esteem, you don't know what self-esteem is at
Right.
10. And so to this day, I always ask myself, I don't know where the strength came from, but I always said, I will always ask myself this question, no matter what I do in life, is what type of woman would my mother want me to be?
Yes.
Because I've always been, this little feisty little girl, but I think she would just want me to be myself.
Yes.
And anybody, that's watching and know me, y'all know I'm myself, whether I'm at work. Sometimes I have to tone that down. But it's so freeing. Because like you said earlier, there's some people that's not going to like you. But there's somebody that's going to love you for the same reason someone don't like you.
Yes.
For the same exact thing. So you have to continue being yourself and just walking in your own truth, or like your book says, walking in your authority. And so we're going to transition a little bit to the other bestseller book where you were co-author, Sharing
Yes.
Our Prayers. I think we have a flyer for that book, Sharing Our Prayers. 12 testimonies.
Yes.
12 testimonies on spiritual habits to improve your life. That's
Yes.
kind of deep now. Come on now. This is the part where we go to church. This is the part where we go to church, because there are some spiritual habits
Yes.
that you need. Trust me, I feel like I've been going through a transformation for the past few years. So tell me what your chapter is about.
Okay. My chapter is about forgive. Forgive.
You
live
will bring
through
that
it.
up.
Forgive, live through it, grow through it. And I wrote that chapter because I wanted you to be able to first forgive yourself. And not so much forgive yourself because, you were the one who made this happen. Not so much that, but to forgive yourself so that you can live and begin again. It's almost like you're starting back over. When you forgive, you release that from you, and then you can move to that next spot, that next level. But it's not until you learn how to forgive yourself, live through it, because now you have to live through what you just went through. And then after you live through it, you have to grow through it. Because once you grow through it, you become stronger, you become wiser. The decisions that you wanted to make back then because you were hurt, it doesn't bother you anymore. And so my chapter was about forgiving a friend of mine for something that she had did.
That's deep.
And it
That's deep.
was really deep. And then I had just with me being a minister now, forgiving, I had to do that, but at that time when she wanted me to forgive her, forgiving wasn't in me.
Wasn't an option.
Yeah, it really
It
wasn't.
wasn't an option.
I mean, but as you learn to live through things, you learn how to grow through things, and you'll become better. You'll become wiser, and you'll some things you'll let go just automatically. But it's not until you actually learn how to forgive yourself. Because it's not that you did anything, but just you forgiving.
Forgiving. It's funny because you just pretty much you just wrote the summary for me for my Refresh Your Lifestyle book, or we still working on the title, because that's what that's about. It's about, in order to move forward,
Yes.
you have to go backwards. And you have to reprogram your thoughts.
Yes.
And then, because actually I'm writing the Refresh book. It's a model, a Refresh model. So Refresh actually spells out 7 principles.
Okay.
And the third principle is forgive.
Forgive.
Because
That's why we connected.
because I do think that is one of the hardest things to do, especially when the other person isn't sorry.
Exactly.
So how do you forgive someone who's not sorry? You just have to forgive them anyway?
Well, yeah. You actually have to forgive them anyway, and I'll say that because if you don't, you're the one that's carrying it, and they don't even know, or let alone they don't even care because
That's
they
true.
moved on.
They
and
done
you
went on
haven't.
with their day. You sitting there mad with all that bitterness.
Yeah, you're carrying
That's a
it
great
day
point.
after day, month after month, and every time the wind blow, you're like, and they did this to me. Let it go.
And that person is
Let it
probably
go.
not
They-
even.
they've
You probably
gone
not
on.
even in their thoughts.
Never even thought about it anymore.
Yes.
Because sometimes we think people, sometimes we hold people up so high, and really they never really approved of us anyway, but they just wanted to be in our circle for that moment. And then we put them so far up so that when they hurt us, we don't know how to let it go, or we don't know how to forgive, because we never ever looked at that person hurting us. And that's what happened with me. I mean, we were best friends. I mean, you know how they say, I don't like to say he or she's my road dog. I always say my road life,
Okay.
or the person that I rode with or ride with. But we never ever see our best friend or, our spouse or anyone that's that close hurting us. But when they do, we have to make sure that we have at least some little space so that we can, take ourselves back. Because some people lose their mind along the way.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that, because when someone close hurt you, it's harder to forgive that person.
Yes.
Because, like you said, because that is the last person we would have
Exactly.
expected to hurt us. We put them really high on that, trust.
Yes.
Some people, in past, we're not even worried, but because in order to hurt me, that's like they say, your opinion has to matter.
Yes.
In order for you to hurt me. So when it's someone that you actually trusted, that can be
Yes.
a challenge. So the forgiveness part is definitely But it's funny because you did. I'm gonna have to replay this later and just write down everything and just put on the back of
And you know another thing, some people can't forgive because they can't forgive God. So it also, you know, forgiving can hurt you in that manner, because it's like, God, why did you let this happen to me? Well, maybe at some point, and I can't speak for everyone, but maybe at some point you can take that and turn it around for the good, to something positive, or do something with it. Like when I said live through it, grow through it. So you probably never thought that after that I would be able to live through it. I would be able to grow through it. So why can't you just take that, okay, I forgive that person, move on. I don't need you in my space anymore, but I'm going to learn how to live through this.
That's great
Honestly,
advice.
I probably would have never met my husband. You know, so
From
I just have
holding
to
on
say
to-
thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So also, okay, we got a few more minutes. So I want to
Yes.
talk about, you have a book called Life Goes On.
Yes.
So what is that book? Is that pretty much on the same? I think we have a book cover for that one, for Life Goes On.
Yes.
Yeah, Life Goes On: How to Maintain Your Faith Through Adversity. So that's pretty. Is that pretty much everything we're discussing?
Yes, because you know, I guess I just love writing, so you know I like the book cover and everything. But Life Goes On, I was actually going through something myself, and each chapter is telling you about the things that I've gone through. But I had to keep telling myself, life goes on, get over it, life goes on. And no matter what you go through in life, you have to kind of keep, you know, telling yourself, okay, that happened, life goes
Life
on.
goes on,
They
keep
did
it
that,
moving.
life goes on. So it's like you gotta, in order to survive this world, and you know, I used to hear this growing up all the time. My mom used to say it all the time, only the strong can survive. I was like, well, what does that mean? Well, life goes on. Only the strong can survive. Life goes on. So life goes on is experiences that I have gone through, but I made it. And you can make it through anything that you're going through in life. But you just have to stay strong. You know, I always say stay focused, because once you lose your focus, you're just running around. You're just out there.
Oh, trust me, I know
You
that
know.
one.
And so for me to write the 31 books, I had to get back in focus. I had to get back in line with, no matter what went on in life, I still got back in line with what my passion and my vision and my purpose was. And you have to be able to do that in life, because things will come, and it will knock you off your faith factor. It will knock you off your pedestal. But you have to keep telling yourself, life goes on, I can do this. Life goes on, I can do this. And you know, I love that book. I love all
Okay.
my books, but
So how could they find, before we run out of time, how
Okay.
can they find you? I think we have a contact flyer with your information on it, so that way they can support your books. Do you have a lot to choose from? That's for your, oh yeah, that has your social media information on it. And you're available for small group Bible study, women's retreats, conferences, panel discussions, prayer reference, book signing.
oh, thank you for sharing that. That is too neat.
So, and you said you like the Red Rose, and I
Yes.
see that. So your books are on Amazon.
Amazon, and they're also on my website. They're Barnes and Noble and Books A Million.
Okay, and you also have you have a life coach.
Yes.
Okay, so you do one-on-one sessions.
Yes.
And you just accountability, help you write your book, find your purpose, get motivated, because we do need accountability. I think that's really important. So that's your information. Oh, your sessions are Mondays and Wednesdays.
Mondays and Wednesdays, yes.
Okay, just not today. Well,
Right.
today.
Not today.
So thank you for being here. So that's one of your upcoming events. That's in September.
That's in September, yes.
So can you talk just briefly about that event?
That is being hosted by Sir
Charles
Charles
Carey,
Carey.
yeah.
And I will be presenting one of my speaking parts. I'm more than sure I will be talking about publishing your book and how to market it.
Okay.
But there are going to be so many other speakers doing different speaking parts.
That's the one I would have been participating in,
Oh,
but
but
I'll be in the Dominican Republic.
Enjoy.
Okay, and that's okay. Carry
that
your
one.
prayers.
Uh-huh.
But you also have an event that's coming up on April 28th. It's a women's conference.
Women's conference, yes.
Okay.
April the 28th, Women's Conference. And that one is actually free.
Okay.
And I am one of the presenters there. And it's surviving living through abuse.
Okay.
And so, you know, there's different forms of abuse, mental, physical, emotional. So each person will have their topic that they're going to speak on.
Okay, awesome. And then we want to talk a little bit about your Right to Finish workshop
Yes.
and the services
So
you
it
offer.
made it. Okay.
Yes, it did make it.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is my baby right here. I am starting my own writing workshop, virtual, and what'll happen, you'll start putting your book together through us meeting every Thursday from 7 to 8, but that's for 6 weeks.
Okay.
And then we'll start back over if you need it. But prayerfully, once you go through your outline, your marketing, and all that you need, you should be able to complete at least some form of your book and your content and your end product.
Okay, so how can they find you if they want to participate in that? Let them know again, so while we wrapping up, how they can find you if they want to participate in your event or if they want to hire you or...
Okay. So you can use my email address, AllisonGDaniels@verizon.net, or you can go to the website, and the website will allow you to send an email to me. And then you have the cell number there. You can leave a message. And I'm definitely on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I am on Anchor. There's so many different sites that I'm on. You know, I try to stay in the know. I guess that's the new word. I'm not sure. But I try to constantly stay around so
Okay.
that you'll be able to find me.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you, Reverend Allison Daniels,
Thank
for
you.
coming into the Kay Lowry Moore Show. I appreciate what you have contributed to the show. Hopefully, you guys have got some motivational tips on how to move forward. If you would like to reach out to Allison or Reverend Allison for any of her services, you can always reach me, and then that way I will reach out to her, or, I will post this episode later so we can
Okay,
have the information there for them to contact you. So, but thanks again. So
Thank
you
you for having
guys,
me.
it's time for me to wrap up. These hours go by quickly,
Yes.
but I just want to make sure you guys join me here again next week at 8 p.m. And as always, whatever it is you want to do in life, you got to get up, go out and go get it. And I'll see you guys later.
It's like you're looking through a telescope. You see where you're gonna be. Growing, getting better. You're not the person they see. Can't be mad at the things you've been through, 'cause they built your money.